What on earth just happened in there? Mr. Naruhodo, I've managed to find out what happened. Mr. Sato? I was told it was an advanced form of smoke grenade, a type of exploding device that releases smoke. A smoke grenade? It sounded like that sounds like the sort of thing ninjas use. They're just making sure everything is safe now. I think the trial will start again before long. But who would have done something like that? The police managed to catch someone who was trying to flee the courtroom, apparently. Flee the courtroom? Why? Well, it's a young girl of around 15, I hear. A young girl? Then could it be the other passenger McGilded was talking about? My thoughts exactly. So he wasn't lying. Oh, what's become of McGilded? There are so many things I need to ask him about, but he's not here. I think he was summoned to the prosecutor's antechamber to answer questions, along with the young girl. Who is she, I wonder? And what was she even doing here at the trial? She was taking a huge risk, and for what possible benefit? There's another matter troubling me. What's that? The 20 pence. According to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 4 passengers that night at a fare of 5 pence each. That comes to a total of 20 pence. But now it seems there were in fact 5 passengers, which means the figures don't seem to add up again. She's right, that is strange. Counsel for the defense, kindly proceed into the courtroom. The trial will recommence in 5 minutes. Oh, thank you, officer, we'll go straight in. Well, whoever she is, I imagine this young girl will be asked to take the stand and testify now. I really can't imagine what she's going to say, but it could alter the whole direction of the trial. We'll know soon enough, Mr. Sato. Yes. Spiffing. Very fashionable. There's the young girl next to Mr. McGilded. Look. She must have been the one who caused the disturbance. Well, after that rather eventful recess, the court will now resume the trial of Mr. Magnus McGilded. Now then, Lord Van Zykes. My lord. I believe you have established the cause of the smoke which veiled proceedings? It seems to have been an advanced form of smoke grenade, of the sort typically employed by the army. Good gracious, the army? What in the devil's name? It was an elaborate attempt by a young girl to cloak her escape from the public gallery, but she was caught. Why the fuck did she have a smoke grenade? And now occupies the stand. Your name, girl? Are you responsible for the smoke grenade which induced pandemonium here in my courtroom? What is the meaning of this deplorable behavior? If I may, my lord. Yes, McGilded. I think perhaps I ought to explain here why it is that this wee lass was here in the first place, and why she tried to bolt like that. 'Tis all tied up with the events of that night, so it is. Very well, McGilded, give your testimony. You will explain to the court exactly how this young woman is involved. Just what did happen that night. It's not like a defense lawyer needs that information or anything. On the night in question, I took the back seat in the omnibus and promptly nodded off. But then, begorra, a loud thud and a wee scream woke me up with a fair start. There was a fella collapsed on the floor at my feet, so I sat him up in the seat across from me. Then I turned around to where the scream had come from, and bless me soul, what do I find? There was a child in there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away. I remain somewhat baffled, I confess, but from what I gather on the night in question, this young girl was indeed riding in the omnibus. Is that correct? 'Tis exactly as the defense counsel said. This lass was the 5th passenger, my lord. Very well. The defense may now cross-examine. Are you ready, counsel? Yes, my lord. Or rather, no. I have no idea where to start. It doesn't look like he knows where to start either. On the night in question, I took the back seat of the omnibus and promptly nodded off. And when you first got onto the omnibus, were there any other passengers? There were not. The cabin was empty, and there was no one on the roof deck either. You were the first passenger, as it were, I see. Aye, and that's why I took the back seat as I did. 'Tis the most comfortable, so it is. Could you explain exactly what you mean by the back seat? By all means. 'Tis how you already described it earlier. I'm talking about the seat opposite the one in which the poor gentleman was stabbed was sitting. Like I said, 'tis the most comfortable and where I feel most at ease. And of course, I enjoy gazing through the skylight from time to time as well. Then, begorra, a loud thud and a wee scream woke me up with a fair start. A loud thud, you say, and a scream. Aye, that's right. How can I explain it? 'Twas like the sound of someone falling to the ground, that sort of noise. So you think it was the sound of Mr. Mason falling to the floor, having been stabbed? Well now, you'll remember I was asleep at the time, so I wouldn't like to say. Then when the sound woke me up and I opened my eyes, there wasn't a soul to be seen in the carriage but the fellow on the floor. You didn't see anyone? But at the same moment you did hear a scream. Ah, from the seats on the roof deck above, I presume. Not above me, lord. 'Twas from inside the cabin. But I wasn't altogether thinking about the scream. No, I was too stunned by the desperate sight before my eyes. There was a fella collapsed on the floor at my feet, so I sat him up in the seat across from me. You sat him up? The victim, you mean? That I did, on the seat across from me, as which I could plainly see the poor devil was already gone. And you wouldn't leave a dead man lying on the floor now, would you? 'Tis common courtesy, so it is. I find that a little hard to believe. Ah, Lord Zeeks. Now, why would that be? You would wake to find a man laying dead at your feet in a carriage. Any normal person would hail the cabman. Any upstanding member of London society, that is. Well now, as you know, I'm in something of a special line of business. The business of lending money at exorbitant rates of interest. Unfortunately, my lord, not everyone is thankful for the help I offer him, and some would even see me dead. So I do try, where at all possible, to avoid getting myself in a tangle with trouble. Are you suggesting you were just going to leave the man there? Heavens alive, no, I was always intended to report it, so I was. Only, I had a mind to find out whys and whereas first. The whys and wherefores. Right you are, there were some details I wanted to understand before anyone else got to meddling. That wee scream I heard, for example. Wouldn't your good self just do the same? Yes, the scream he says he heard at the same time as the thud of the victim collapsing. Then I turned around to find where the scream had come from, and bless me soul, what did I find? Hold it! I mean, I guess I'm going to press on it as well, just in case. I'm afraid I don't understand. I'm sure you just told the court there was no one else in the carriage, except for you and the victim. So I did, sir, so I did. As far as I could see, that is. What do you mean? Well now, 'tis a queer thing. The wee scream I heard as I woke up. It came from, if you'll excuse the vulgar expression, under me backside. Good gracious. Under your backside? And when I lifted the seat on which I'd been sitting, I found there was a wee cubbyhole there for storage. Mr. Naruhodo, we can examine the omnibus ourselves. Yes, the whole bus was submitted. This would be a very good time to have a thorough look. I already looked at it, but like, you want me to go again? And that's when I found her. I'm gonna press on this last one and then check the inside of the carriage. You say she was hiding herself? Aye, that's right. 'Twas hard to see in the dim lamplight, but she was all curled up in a wee ball. When our eyes met, well, me heart nearly stopped beating in me chest. Ugh, you're really overreacting to this. Still no, I pulled her out from under there and sat her on the seat opposite so I could have a wee chin wag with her. The seat opposite? That's right, the seat next to the dead gentleman. You sat this young girl next to a corpse, sir? Well, as I'm sure I mentioned, a gentleman in my position can all too often find himself in mortal danger. So, I need to find out just who this urchin was, you see. And while I was in the middle of talking with her, I heard another scream, a fella's voice this time. Presumably that scream was Mr. First, who was sitting on the roof deck seats. Yet none of the others reported 2 screams.
Right you are again, I would say. Looking down through the skylight, he must have seen this young girl and the gentleman with the knife in his belly.
In other words,
the previous witnesses did not, in fact, see you at all, Mr. McGilded. What they believed to be yourself and the victim was, in fact, this girl and the late Mr. Mason. Aye, my lord. I was, as I think everyone understands now, sat at the back of the carriage out of sight. It is certainly plausible the defendant is somewhat diminutive in stature, and readily confused, perhaps, with this young girl. After that, of course, with the scream from the gentleman over us, the driver realized something was wrong and pulled up the horses. Thank you, I've heard enough. The events as explained are clear in my mind. However, at least one conundrum remains. Who is the girl? Her name is Gina Lestrade. Gina Lestrade, my lord. She's a chancer, earns a crust among large crowds, relieving people of their purses. What's commonly called a pickpocket.
what?
This girl here, a petty thief? Order, order. Is this true, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade, you will answer the question.
Relax.
Ah! How dare... What is the meaning of this?
Just like that, she's gone.
Ah! The girl, she's gone.
Open your eyes.
I'm over here. Good gracious, how?
What was the point in that little sidestep?
I know what you lot are thinking. Grown-ups are all the same. This dirty little dipper, you'll say, slipped up and caught on the job. She got herself backed into a corner, so she knifed the gent. Go on, that's what is in your heads, isn't it?
No, not at all. This is a court of law. We're here to determine the truth, not...
Look, knives are for cowards. Only thugs use weapons like that. All I need for what I do is these fingers. I'm a professional, alright? Maybe not in your eyes, but I got pride in what I do.
Let me guess, you don't count smoke guns among weapons for thugs?
Oh, this? Yeah, this was in a bag I lifted the other day down where they keep the four-wheel drags. It's nice, innit? I like the pink best. Ah, do not wave that thing in my direction again.
So, you admit you were riding the omnibus on the night in question?
Tis alright, lass. You can tell him the truth now.
Alright, yeah. It was like the Irishman said.
The court accepts this girl, Miss Gina Lestrade, as a valid and significant witness in this case. Accordingly, young lady, we will now hear your testimony, if you please. You will tell the court exactly what happened on the omnibus on the night in question.
Alright, if I have to. So I snuck inside the carriage before they hooked up the horses, just like always. But it was a right old waste of time. I got nothing to show for me troubles last night. I tell you, you can't see a blind thing in that hiding place. It's pitch in there. Then, after a while, I hear this loud bang. Nearly jumped out me skin, I did, and just the scream just came out. It's because of that this swell found me. He did help me get away, mind.
Yeah, he let you go. I fail to understand why you let this street urchin go, McGilded. Oh, 'tis simplicity itself, my lord. You see, she couldn't possibly have been the killer of the other passenger. I know that for a fact.
Well, because he was sat on top of the seat she was under.
Well, as I'm sure I said before, sir. I was sitting right on top of the place where she was hiding herself. I think a demonstration is called for. This is where I was sat that night, and the cubbyhole of which you have spoken is underneath this seat. Yes, it does just appear large enough to accommodate someone of the girl's stature. Aye, but of course, the wee lass was stuck in there, because I'd parked myself on the seat for the duration. Ah, so you see, that's why I let the lass bolt. I knew that if the police found her there, they'd automatically assume she did it. But I couldn't live with myself if a young woman's life was ruined when all the time I knew she was innocent. Even though you must have realized your actions would result in your own innocence being called into question. Not at all, my lord, not at all. I knew in my own heart that I was innocent. So I thought it was worth taking a punt for my own good. Well, skip that by accident. Thought taking a punt for my own good name for the sake of this less fortunate lass. My goodness, what a perfect gentleman.
My lord, this fine example of a man cannot possibly be guilty of a heinous crime like this. I'm ashamed of myself for ever doubting you, sir.
Now we just gotta convince Karen.
With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time.
We did it, team. Now he's gonna put a stop to this, of course, but...
Saints alive! All 6 members of the jury consensual in their leading to a verdict of not guilty.
Mr. Naruhodo, it must mean what? That we're victorious. We've won? Are you sure?
Objection!
What are you doing? If the sight of my iron-heeled Wellington offends, pray do forgive the discourtesy. What the fuck are you doing, dude? This really is a consummate example of the one monumental flaw in British judicial practices. Where evidence and reasoning should be paramount, emotion rules the day. Emotion? The witness's latest statement gives us a clear insight into his true nature. What do you mean, his true nature? Do you really think Scotland Yard would have made such a glaring omission? After the incident, the omnibus was comprehensively searched by officers of the police. Obviously, the interior of this cubbyhole, as the witness put it, was included in their investigation. The compartment under the posterior seat was full of the coachman's belongings. It's noted in black and white here in the police report. Good lord! The evidence has been tampered with. In order to corroborate Mr. McGilded's story, someone has unlawfully removed everything from under the seat. But we saw it when we looked in there earlier as well.
Order! Order! How could such a devious contrivance... No, we got called for the emergency recess, of course.
They took it out then.
How could such a devious contrivance possibly been effected, counsel?
Naturally, we must acknowledge the deficiencies of the constabulary in allowing this to have happened. However, I assure you, when the omnibus was wheeled into the courtroom this morning, the compartment under the seat was not empty. Well, my Nipponese friend. Me? When the carriage was submitted as evidence, doubtless you examined it in fine detail, as would any self-respecting practitioner of the law. Pray, what did you find the condition of the under-seat compartment to be?
Oh, to be sure, the young gentleman will be able to clear this up in a jiffy.
Sorry?
Go ahead. You can tell the court now, fella. How this is all an elaborate excuse by the desperate Lord Van Zykes. Well, counsel?
How am I supposed to answer? What can I say about the state of the compartment? It wasn't empty. I really don't know if giving this answer is helping my cause as counsel for the defense, but as far as I remember at least, when I first examined the compartment, I'm fairly certain there were a number of articles inside it, yes.
Are you sure, counsel? Ah, be whist! What are you saying now, you daft daw? I thought you were on my side here.
What game are you playing? Your task is to defend the man in the stand. Why would you say something to compromise his position? Because it's true. As the advocate for the defense in this trial, I confess I'm still not entirely sure where I stand, but it seems to me that I should state what facts I do know as clearly and honestly as possible. Interesting.
'Tis not altogether pleasing, fella.
I'm simply telling the truth, Mr. McGilded.
Well, don't forget that you're supposed to be representing my best interests here, lad. Now then, a fella's memory is a curious thing and not altogether reliable. No, the court must consider the facts. The fact that their cubbyhole under the seat is as empty as the devil's heart, so it is. Do you think perhaps it would be in your best interest now to admit that you might have been mistaken?
Why? Why do I feel like something's not right here?
I should like the jury to weigh in on the matter.
That compartment is designed to house equipment used to maintain the smooth running of the carriage. The Guild's rules state that omnibuses should be properly and fully equipped at all times, so it certainly wouldn't have been empty on the night in question. Beppo isn't that irresponsible. That money-lending fleecer and the pick purse are lying.
I can't believe I was nearly taken in. The stinking rich are always stinkers. Nothing but cowards, the lot of them.
What? Oh no.
It's a trick. It's a trick, of course. Quite so, I concur here. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time.
Yes, but every time a different truth, it seems. My lord, I humbly exhibit the scales of justice. Clearly a verdict of not guilty at this time would be wholly inappropriate.
Thank you, counsel. But before we proceed any further, there is the matter of the outstanding cross-examination. Counsel for the defense, begin your questioning of the witness, please.
Yes, my lord. What just happened? The whole balance of the trial just shifted almost beyond recognition. The Reaper of the Bailey is at work, it would seem.
Alright then. So I snuck into the carriage before they hooked it up to the horses, just like always.
So you were already in the omnibus before it even set off on its run.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's the point of spending a joey to make a few bob, eh? That's a rum idea, isn't it?
I suppose she means there's no point spending money to make money. It actually makes sense. Sorry, I am sipping again. Alright. I'm energized and ready to interrogate.
Counsel, may I remind you this girl is a petty thief. Kindly refrain from entertaining her tenants. Well, that does clear up the little mystery of the fares and all. 4 paying passengers of 5 pence apiece, making the 20 to which the cabman testified. And 1 little scapegrace riding for free.
The red conk of a driver always goes for some grub before his last run, see? That's when I slip into the carriage and get myself hidden under the seat. Nice and easy, right?
But your hiding place is a storage compartment, full of equipment for the coach, no?
Yeah, there's brushes and buckets and whatnot in there, sure. I always chuck all that out and cram it in a corner somewhere. No one ever seems to bother much.
It was all tucked into the corner, that tracks. And yet, according to the report filed by the police officer who arrived at the scene, the compartment was full of such paraphernalia. Well, I don't know nothing about that. Like I said, I moved all that stuff out so I could hide under the seat. That's all I can tell you.
It seems we've reached the end of that line of inquiry. Continue.
Boy, it was a right waste of time. Got nothing to show for me troubles that night.
A waste of time? Why is that?
Well, most nights I'm on me own in the God permit, at least some of the time.
I beg your pardon? Did you say God permit?
Yeah, well, that's what my kind call it. You say the omnibus, I suppose. The point is, any normal run, the carriage ain't got no one in it for a while.
And that's where you come out of your hiding place and get away?
That's it, only that night. This cove was sat on me from the start, and he didn't budge the whole way, did he? Not 1 inch, I was totally stuck.
Do you mean to tell us you were present in the carriage for the duration? You were under the seat the entire time while events unfolded?
Yeah. Right, mister.
To be sure. I was as shocked as anyone. You don't expect to lift the cushion you've been sat on and find a child now, do you?
So this Miss Lestrade couldn't possibly be the culprit.
I'll tell you can't see a blind thing in that hiding place. It's pitch in there.
So you couldn't see out into the cabin at all?
Not a jot. Most days I push the cushion up with me and have a look out the crack. But I can't have a butcher's at was. Then I can have a butcher's at who I'm gonna fiddle.
I thought you were a pickpocket, not a butcher.
I mean, I can have a look. The seat I get under ain't as plush as the other one, you see. Most of the time, the passengers paint themselves opposite. But for some reason, that night, this here Irishman spent the whole journey right over me head.
And for that reason, you weren't able to push the cushion up to peek, I see.
Truth is, I ain't too happy in small, dark places. Feels too much like being thrown in the clink. It's the only place to hide in them carriages, so it's Hobson's choice.
Why doesn't she just stick to picking people's pockets in the open, then? I'd say there's some reason that she's not letting on, judging from her demeanor.
So anyways, I was a bit scared, but I had to just stick it out under there, nothing else for it. Then after a while, I heard this loud bang, nearly jumped out my skin I did, and the scream just came out.
When you say a loud bang, do you mean the noise of someone falling to the floor?
Could have been, I suppose. I don't remember so well. Point is, it made me jump.
And you let out a scream involuntarily.
That's right. Then I felt the cushion over me and get lighter all of a sudden.
Presumably when the defendant got out to help the victim. Yes, got up to help the victim. Or not. It could equally have been the moment the accused stood up in order to stab his victim, could it not?
Well, girl, did you see what happened at that crucial moment?
Yeah, I saw it. I pushed up the cushion and had a quick butcher's as I had the chance, didn't I? The Irishman was sitting up the bloke what had fallen on the floor on the seat opposite.
That matches Mr. Gilbert's account.
But then, the fella turns around and looks right at me. I sunk back down again, but it was too late by then. I should have never risked looking. Because of that, this swell find me. He did help me get away, mind.
I did not mean to click. Oh no, I did not click on anything at all. None. Get me back through. I have to press that last statement still. Press.
Hold it!
And when Mr. McGilda discovered you, he pulled you out from your hiding place?
I was scared stiff, I was. He dragged me out and sat me down on the seat and all.
Next to the victim, Mr. Mason?
Yeah, the bloke had a knife in his guts. He was still bleeding. Then the carriage lurched a bit and he ended up falling onto me.
How awful.
Both me hands got covered in blood. It made me feel sick as a dog.
Both hands covered in blood. That must be what the rooftop passengers saw. After that, I believe you talked with Mr. McGilda for a while, is that correct?
He asked me some stuff. He wanted to know me name and what I was up to in there. Then I heard something from above. Someone screamed.
Yes, Mr. Faust at first, on the roof deck, one would presume.
Well, I didn't want no one seeing me face, so I didn't look up. Then the horses were drawn up smartish, and this here Irishman says to me, "Get back under the seat, I'll see that you can get away later."
All 6 memories, yeah. For one brief shining moment, yes. Just find some conclusive piece of evidence among this new testimony. Something's bothering me, but I can't quite put my finger on it. What was the thing? What did you say before that? I have this niggling feeling. Alright. So, let's see. It was a right old waste. We should look at the carriage again. Oh, there is blood on the floor. That's blood, isn't it? I didn't actually see this the last time. Is something wrong? Oh, it's just, well, this bloodstain is so obvious, that's all. And yet Van Zyke's... This got planted also. Made no mention of it. I suppose that does seem a little strange. Why do I have such a bad feeling about this? It's... yeah... That happened when this happened, presumably. This took... See, yeah, I didn't want to examine the seat, I wanted you to lift it up. This is a storage compartment, but there's nothing in here. It's totally empty. Something doesn't seem right, but I can't put my finger on what it is. I can put my finger on what it was. Anything else change in here? Doesn't look like it. Right? Was this little bit here? Yes. Alright, nothing else has changed. Has anything changed outside? Also, no. Okay. So... what do we go for now, then? Got nothing to show for me troubles. Can't see a thing in there. It's pitch in there. Heard this loud bang. Nearly jumped out in me skin. What are we gonna go with on this? Oh, whoa, hold on, okay.
Excuse me.
Did I not see him do that before? Am I like, I can't be that stupid, right? Is something wrong, Mr. McGilded? Oh, I do apologize. Was there something the matter, Council? I'm just wondering if Miss Lestrade's last comment made something occur to you, perhaps. You seem to be thinking something to yourself. Oh, no, 'twas nothing important. I was feeling bad for the poor lass is all. I remember feeling desperate myself as a young lad, shut up in the dark. 'Twas terrifying, it was. I see, yes, I'm sure we can all sympathize. I'm still scared of the dark. Me too. Aye, and I don't know about myself, but I find that darkness seems to make anything you hear seem much louder as well.
Yeah. Oh, I suppose it does. Maybe.
Miss Lestrade, did you hear something that night? Anything? An unusual noise?
Nah, not really. All I could hear was the Irishman snoring.
But Japers, there's no need to tell your world of me foibles, you little scamp.
What a pity. If only Miss Lestrade had heard something, it might have given us a vital clue. What should we make of that last statement? I mean, we gotta go with it's profoundly important. My lord, I believe the statement just made by the witness is profoundly important. Profoundly important, but all she said was that she heard nothing. Yes, which is the profoundly important part. I'm sure of it. I'm almost sure of it. I'm almost sure that I don't understand the inner workings of your Eastern mind, nevertheless. Miss Gina Lestrade, you will supplement your formal testimony by repeating that statement.
What? Supplement? What are you on about? Don't give me all your fancy talk. I know what you're trying to do. Well, it'll work on me.
That's right, insult the judge.
I was straining my ears to work out what was going on. All I could hear was snoring.
So you were straining to hear what was happening the entire time, since the moment you hid yourself?
Oh, not exactly, no.
Sorry?
Well, there was no one in the cabin to start with. I could push the cushions up and have a butcher's to see what was what. But then, when I saw this swell getting on, I got my head down so he didn't notice me.
And Mr. McGill sat on the seat. Mr. McGill sat on the seat under which you were hiding, correct?
Yeah. Was you Adam and Eve, eh? What a mug, you fucking mug. So all I could do was listen. I was waiting to jump out there as soon as I heard him leave, you see. But would he? Not likely. Even though he stopped here and there, I never heard the door open. So I just had to stay put and listen to him driving his pigs to the market, snoring like an old dog he was.
Are there any conclusions we can draw from that, I wonder? It doesn't add up. Miss Lestrade, what you have just told the court is clearly at odds with the facts.
At odds? Are you sure, man?
Absolutely. It seems my learned Nipponese friend is not as dull-witted as I feared. So von Zykes realized it too.
Counsel, I must insist that you bolster your claim with evidence, or some complicit party's name at the very least.
Yes, my lord.
I expect you to demonstrate this alleged contradiction to the court.
According to Miss Lestrade, while she was hiding on the omnibus that night, she heard nothing but the sound of Mr. McGildered snoring. Think, Rininosuke, think. There's something else she should have heard. There's something else she should have heard. She should have heard the victim get in. Of course. She's saying she only heard him get in and sit down, and then never heard the door again. But then how did Mason get on if she never heard the door?
Thrice fired Mason.
Yes, my lord. The sound that Miss Lestrade cannot have failed to hear is that of the victim, Mr. Mason, boarding the omnibus.
Order! Order! Explain your reasoning, counsel.
Miss Lestrade, allow me to confirm something. You claimed earlier that you were the first person on board the omnibus, is that correct?
Yeah, of course I was. I got on while the driver was in the pub, didn't I?
And the next person to board was Mr. McGilded.
That it was. Not a soul in those in the cabin when I climbed aboard. At least not in plain sight.
So you were, to all intents and purposes, alone in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus at that time.
Did I not just say as much? I wasn't traveling with anyone else, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I saw him get on, remember? Through the crack. He was on his own, for sure.
And from what we heard, the carriage made a number of stops after its onward journey, during which time did you not hear the door opening or closing at all?
Nah, I never heard it. That's exactly what I was listening for, weren't it? Waiting for this swell to leave.
In which case, when and how did the victim end up in the carriage?
Ah!
We know that the victim collapsed inside the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Therefore, Miss Lestrade's statement about what she did or did not hear is at odds with the facts.
Ah.
Yes, this petty thief's statement was clearly flawed.
Lord Van Zykes.
Yes, he knew. He knew all too well that there was an inconsistency in her statement. It would seem words of thanks are in order for my learned friend. What are you talking about? You have demonstrated matters impeccably. This witness and her colorful statements are completely unreliable. Her words are convenient untruths and nothing more.
He's dead right. How could the victim process this? Makes no sense whatsoever. And this girl is a pickpocket. Let's not forget that.
Granny, no! Ah! She didn't even say anything.
I didn't want to judge the dear little mite just because she has some rather naughty ways, but I must say, I can't abide liars.
And neither can I. Mr. Foreman, I didn't want to judge the girl just because she has some less than salubris ways, but I must say, I cannot abide liars.
Ah! Mr. Naruhodo, there's 5 members leaning to guilty. Well, your consideration for others is refreshing, my Nipponese friend. To the considerable troubles you have spared me. Yes, very refreshing.
Gah! What are you playing at? Have you forgotten who you're working for, you useless Eastern Abadan?
This is carnage. It's perfect.
Juror number 2 is the only one left. Mr. Naruhodo, this isn't the way this is going. I know. If we can't find some new way to convince everyone, the judge will rule and we'll have lost. I very much wanted to believe the words of London's most respected gentleman, but those of us in service must know we must accept hard truths.
Hold it!
Yes, the witness's last statement seemed to be revealed a critical inconsistency in her story. However, if we consider the possibility that her statement is in fact the truth, it may shed an entirely new light on the whole case. What are you saying?
Counsel!
I'm sorry, sir? Whatever do you mean?
Counsel, I will not tolerate your attempting to prorogue my adjudication. Explain yourself.
When the accused boarded the omnibus on the night in question, the victim was nowhere to be seen. Subsequently, the carriage door was not heard opening a single time, as testified by the witness in the stand.
And yet the victim's body was found inside the carriage.
If this petty thief's words are to be believed, how do you explain the victim's miraculous appearance inside the cabin of the omnibus? There's only one way to explain. He was put there after he died. Because there's not another entrance. Or he was in there already. Put there already? So what? He was pulled out from underneath the seat? That doesn't make any sense. There doesn't seem to be another entrance in there. Does there? Can the skylight open? The skylight can open! There's a hatch, right? There's a latch. There's another entrance. If the door wasn't opened even once, the only explanation is that the victim entered the cabin some other way.
Objection.
I wondered what new fantasy you would come up with in your blind panic. But behold, the omnibus is here for all to see. Only one side of the enclosed cabin is furnished with a door. The other only has windows, fixed windows, which cannot be opened. In short, there is no other entrance than the door. But there could be. There's one possibility you haven't considered. Oh, really? Yes, one other way that isn't the door. Another opening, the use of which allowed the victim to appear inside the enclosed cabin.
All right, counsel. The defense will identify the location.
Right there.
Take that!
The answer is obvious. It can only have been the skylight.
I say, the skylight?
Objection!
Your ludicrous proposal almost has me lost for words. However, the skylight may very well be large enough for someone to pass through. So you claim. But do you have a shred of evidence to support your addled brain theory? Both Mr. McGilded and Miss Lestrade said the same in their testimonies. They each claimed to have heard a loud thud, such as the noise made by someone falling to the floor. He was killed on the top of the cabin and pushed inside. Yes, which has already been explained, as the sound of the victim falling from his seat, having been assaulted with the dagger. Yes, it has, but would a man slipping from the seat onto the floor really have made such a loud noise as the witnesses describe? A noise loud enough to cause Miss Lestrade to let out an involuntary cry, in fact?
Good gracious.
Perhaps, in fact, that was the moment the victim made his entrance into the cabin. No, let me rephrase that. The victim didn't enter the cabin. He fell into it. You're now suggesting that the victim fell from the skylight into the cabin? That's simply impossible. How can you be so sure? Because if the victim had fallen inside through the skylight, as you say, the passengers on the roof deck would have seen it happen. And yet, not one person made mention of such events in their testimony. Well, yes, that's true.
Might a humble fella make a wee comment here?
Mr. McGilded?
To be sure now, the two fellas who were sat on the roof that had testified before said nothing of the victim falling through the skylight. But it seems to me, my lord, that 'tis not so much a case of them not saying, but... aye. 'Tis a case of them being unable to say.
What?
I think perhaps the two fellas do be having something of a compelling reason not to mention what happened. Would yous not agree, fine ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Oh my goodness,
Surely not. These two chaps on the roof.
You mean the ones who stuck the knife in the man were... Just what exactly are you insinuating here, you blitherer?
You rotter, he said. You rotter, what are you insinuating?
This is a flaming outrage. I've a good mind to give you a blinker in a minute.
He'll give you a shiner in a minute, he said, and so will I.
Mr. Fairplay, you're effectively accusing me, a city gentleman and well-respected banker.
And me, a very angry hatter.
Suggesting that someone like me could have stabbed the man in the guts. It's a disgrace. It's scandalous. I protest in the strongest possible terms.
That's right, I protest too about you, you rotten scoundrel.
this is getting exciting.
Order, order. This is no time, witnesses. I will not permit this wanton invasion of the stand. Return to the anteroom at once.
But this is beyond reason, my lord. It's outrageous.
It is very hurtful, you know.
My lord, if I may comment.
Go ahead, Lord Van Zykes.
It was the defense that incited this outburst from the witnesses. My learned friend has seen fit to abandon all protocol and accuse the witnesses without proof. Accuse? I never intended to. It seems, young Nipponese, that your command of the English tongue is wanting. You proposed to this court that the victim fell through the skylight from the roof deck of the omnibus. Yet, that hypothesis cannot possibly stand without the rooftop passengers being aware of the events. You have branded these gentlemen liars. You have intimated their criminal guilt. In our British court of laws, that is what's termed a baseless accusation. I know I was rash to put this idea forward, but so you can't just dismiss it without a second thought.
What are we wasting time for? Get them to testify. I thought there was something fishy about that hat from the moment I laid eyes on it.
We have to see this matter through now, one way or the other. If there's filth and rubbish in our midst, we must dispose of it. Jesus Christ. What's happening? The spectators in the public gallery are in a complete frenzy. Mr. Fairplay and Mr. First.
My lord.
You will take the stand and make another formal testimony in reference to the indictment brought by the defense.
Yes, my lord.
I didn't come here for this. There's no time to think this through. All I can do is keep pushing forward.
We were the only two people up on that roof deck, dead or alive, I could swear to that.
If anything happened where we were sitting, don't you think one or other of us would notice?
In any case, neither of us knew the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill the man.
The skylight was shut the entire time, I tell you. We couldn't possibly have opened it.
If you're so sure the victim fell through the skylight, where's your proof?
I must say that on listening to his testimony, this is somewhat hard to imagine. How either witnesses could have performed any malevolent act on this open rooftop deck without the other noticing forthwith. Yeah, so they both have to have been responsible.
That's right, you see.
We're innocent, I tell you. Although logically, of course, the argument falls down if the two of you were in collusion with one another.
What?
Eh?
According to the investigations by Scotland Yard, the two witnesses share no common dealings.
Well, I don't trust coppers any more than I trust the stinking rich.
Something doesn't feel right. The trial is going in our favor, really. So why do I feel so uneasy?
Counsel for the defense, over to you.
Oh, yes, my lord. All right. So we're going to be pressing on everything once again. So at no time did the victim, Mr. Mason, climb up to you on the deck roof.
Absolutely not, Dickin.
God, we got a lot of people to slide through.
No question about it, he said. None at all. Oh, but yes, of course, I remember seeing them both. I saw the victim inside the enclosed cabin talking with this man here. Is this true, Mr. McGilded? Dear me, my lord, at the risk of repeating myself, I boarded the omnibus alone and nodded off inside almost immediately.
That's an outright lie. Without doubt, you were engaged in.
Let me stop you there, fella, and ask, do you have any evidence at all?
Ah.
'Tis all about evidence in court these days, so it is. You do well to remember that.
I saw you with my own eyes.
This is going so well.
Hold it!
Alright. Well, it was on the final run of the omnibus at past 10 o'clock in the evening. It would certainly have been quite dark, perhaps too dark to see clearly. This is not what I want to go on with.
Is this some kind of lark?
Is this some kind of joke, he said? Is that what this is?
Or perhaps one or the other if you fell asleep briefly. This... If I'd known he was going to press so stupidly, I wouldn't have bothered.
Are you serious, sir? That's what he said. It's impossible.
I'd give you the keys to the vault if you could fall asleep in that bitter cold. And if you did manage it, your eyelids would freeze shut and you'd never open them again.
That's extreme.
It was extreme, I tell you, and we had to put up with it because this man had locked the door. Any true gent would have unlocked it and let me in when I knocked.
The door wasn't locked. I was away with the fellas and I didn't hear you at all.
That's a lie. I saw you through the glass. You were talking to someone. Now, 'twas cold night, so it was. People do be seeing things that aren't real in the cold. 'Tis hardly surprising.
Seeing things?
I believe we have reached an impasse.
Ah, you.
Don't take it personally now, lad. If I'm a suspect in this case, 'tis only fair that you and the other thing are too. Open and free competition is what a capitalist society is all about. This isn't a competition I should like to be involved with, really.
Hold it!
Alright, so, and neither of you know him. So you have never met Mr. Thrice-Fired Mason.
Oh, lummy. No, not once. Never.
Never met the man before, he said. Never.
And you, Mr. First, had no prior dealings with the victim either?
That's right, sir. Hatters do not have much to do with brickmakers, to be perfectly honest, sir. No, I imagine not.
You see, how many different ways can I put this? Neither of us had the remotest... Ooh.
Excuse me.
I actually don't need to keep looking. It just alerts you, Mr. McGilded.
Yes, counsel. What can I be doing you for?
Did the witness's last statement give you pause for thought somehow?
Not the remotest connection. Is that right now, I wonder?
What are you insinuating now?
Ah, Mr. Fairplay. It has been long, so it has.
Eh?
If I'm not very much mistaken, I believe 'tis fast approaching, is it not? Your repayment date.
I beg your pardon?
You borrowed 20 guineas from me, sir.
At an unconscionable rate of interest, you've tricked me. It's extortion.
Well now, is that a touch of begrudgery, is it? The sort of begrudgery that might motivate a fella to pass his crimes off on another?
Ah!
And young Mr. First. Me, sir? What do you want with me, sir? You do be making hats for a living, do you not? That there top hat sliding about on your head, is that one of your own creations, is it? Ah, well, I'm still just an apprentice, you understand. I'll learn the perfect fit for whatever fine gent walks the door. The perfect fit, is it? Well, it's a very distinctive design, so it is. Many customers like it, I tell you. They like a distinctive touch. Customers, such as Thrice-Fired Mason. Ah! There was a photographic print that the victim submitted as evidence afore, my lord. Oh, yeah, you mean? I can't help thinking that the poor fella's hat looks distinctly familiar, wouldn't you say? Oh. That's one of my hats. Aye, that it is. So it would seem the brickmaker was a customer of yours. That sort of customer, I'd wager you could have had a wee quarrel with over the distinctiveness of the goods. Oh, no, sir, absolutely not, sir. Well, there's really nothing more to add. It wouldn't be right to say that the two fellas here haven't the remotest connection to the victim, you see. I rest my case.
You little weasel. Oh.
He's better at this than I am. Gosh, Mr. McGilded has certainly been thorough in his research. Please don't let my little interruption hold up the proceedings. The skylight was shut at the time I tell you. Couldn't have possibly opened it. Are you quite certain about that the skylight was shut the entire time?
I'm going to lose my block with you in a minute.
He's gonna lose his rag with you in a minute, that's what he said.
Take a look for yourself. Go on. You see, it's shut fast now, just like it was on the night.
So it is. Of course, a fella the size of Mason could easily break through it still and on.
What?
Just looking at the size of the thing, you understand.
Oh, now you hold on there a minute, sir. The size of the thing means nothing. Nothing on its own. Let's consider the bigger picture here, shall we?
Still keep doing it. Let's stop biting our cane, shall we? I was riding on the omnibus on another occasion when, well, I broke wind loudly. I shocked myself with it, as it happens. Thank you for sharing. Oh, I just mean to say, well, the point is, I tried to open the skylight, you see. But just my luck, I couldn't make it budge. The stench was terrible. Everyone was looking daggers at me, sir, as I went red as rogue, I did. As red as rouge, not red as rogue. Are you expecting me to sentence you? No, sir, the point is, the skylight can't be opened.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to say about that, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade.
It opens.
The
Skylight.
That is what we're talking about, right? Oh no, here it comes.
All them skylights open dead easy.
More easily than you can do. That's a lie, I tell you. Otherwise, when I broke wit, it can't open from the inside.
You can't do it from the inside, you mug.
Oh.
Look, a few weeks ago I was up on the roof deck of one of them drags, and I had a great haul. I mean, I'd purses coming out me ears.
Miss Lestrade, this is not the forum to be eulogizing on the subject of your criminal activities.
Well, anyway, I had a bit of a scare.
When I lifted the last bloke's purse, he got wise to me. All four of them surrounded me, so I couldn't hop off the bus and leg it.
So what I did, I used the skylight, opened the catch and jumped right through.
What?
Yeah, the catch for them skylights is on the top side. That's why you can't open them from the inside.
The skylight opens. Yes, I checked this at the very beginning, and everybody is now catching up. Well, not the very, very beginning, but during this line. Climb up onto the roof of the omnibus at once and verify this witness's claims. It slides even. I thought it was a hatch. Oh, my hat!
See?
Order, order! So it appears that this street girl's statement is quite true. I don't believe it. The skylight opens, and from the roof deck. Mr. Naruhodo, this could be the clue we've been looking for. Well, defense for the council, please continue your cross-examination. So the skylight opens. Perhaps I should investigate for myself. Okay. I don't... Why are you gonna make me look as well, dog? So the skylight was fastened shut before, but now the catch has been undone. We should be able to open it. Okay. You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening. Okay, this is not what I wanted. I guess we should go check inside now. Yes, please. Must we go through this line of dialogue every time?
Oh, we've done it, boys.
Yes, it does open wide, doesn't it? Wide enough to kick someone like you through, certainly. Why someone like me? Ah, what is it? Look, just here. Look at this. Why, that's without a question. It's blood. Why would there be a blood stain there? Surely it can't be related to the case, can it? I'm sure that the blood on the roof has nothing to do with the case. So, my friend.
Objection!
On the night in question, the victim was fatally stabbed in the stomach, and immediately afterwards, the victim's body was pushed through the skylight into the cabin below. Those are the facts, and the irrefutable proof remains clearly visible in the omnibus that stands before us today in this very courtroom.
What? That's a humbug. Ugh, you can't possibly have any evidence. No, you can't. I mean, we didn't do it, I tell you. It's impossible.
Irrefutable proof here in this courtroom. Counsel, my lord.
I believe everyone would appreciate a little clarification here. Where exactly is this proof?
Yep. Uh-huh. It's it right there. I did not press present, I just clicked on it, and now we're examining it. There we go.
Got it!
By Jupiter, is that blood?
Ah,
This bloodstain proves two things. Firstly, when the incident occurred, the skylight of the omnibus was open.
what?
And secondly, the victim was already bleeding when he fell through the opening.
Oh my.
And so it follows that Mr. McGilded, who was inside the enclosed cabin himself at the time, cannot possibly be guilty of this crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Order, order.
But the blood could have sprayed up there when the fellow was stabbed.
That'd be pretty fucking vicious, dude.
And only found its way to that one particular spot on the skylight.
Sure, and that would be very convenient. Ah,
And let's keep it in mind the skylight catch can only be unfastened from the roof deck. I myself couldn't been able to open it now, would I? But, there's no way to know for certain, is there, if the gent really fell through the skylight? I mean, why don't you have a good look at the floor of the cabin between the two seats, Mr. Faust?
Mr. First, I keep doing it.
'Tis all too plain, if you see. There's the aftermath that shows the poor fella dropped from a fair height right above there, so it is.
what? No.
But it can't be. It's all lies.
My fellow jury members, I think we can all agree that this is clear proof of the defendant's innocence, can't we?
I believe we can, yes. It's clear to me now where the filthy rubbish can be found in this courtroom.
So they thought they could pull the wool over my eyes, did they? I won't tolerate any of the guild's carriages being sullied with blood. I won't tolerate it.
Oh, I always knew that nice gentleman who gave us that delightful park couldn't have done such a thing.
On their three then, everyone. 1, 2, 3.
Objection!
A chilling performance, Mr. McGilded.
Oh, and what would you be referring to there now, Lord Von Zykes?
A bloodstain on the frame of the skylight. Such evidence is null and void. What? Why? For one extremely simple reason. That smear of blood never existed.
Objection!
What are you talking about? It's there for all to see, and it's clearly blood. I personally attended Scotland Yard's investigation of the omnibus. The officers involved went over the carriage with a fine-tooth comb. So I can state with absolute surety that no such smear of blood existed in the carriage, at least not until this trial began. But
Are you suggesting, Lord Van Zykes, that this stain of blood was
fabricated, my lord? Yes, and while this court has been in session, What? I did think that it appearing in the floor was convenient, because I didn't see it before. What a palaver! I must say, I didn't expect such crude reasoning from a prosecutor of your standing, Lord Van Zykes. But I'm Magnus McGilded, a fella known all over the capital for his fine contributions to public life. I don't take kindly to slander, and I'll fight to the bitter end. Even if it's rolling off the tongue of the Reaper at the Bailey. Mr. McGilded, I realize this is your first appearance in court as the accused. However, I am well aware of your involvement behind the scenes in a great many affairs of dubious nature. You're very adept when it comes to avoiding getting your hands dirty. And each time it happens that a case you're involved with is investigated, you adapt the facts. Adapt the facts? What does that even mean? When you wield a fortune the size of Mr. McGilded's, however ill-gotten it may be, nothing is impossible. Tampering with evidence, manipulating the scene of a crime, bribing witnesses. I toast your ability to concoct the most convenient of stories, sir. Tut tut, Lord Van Zykes, this will not do, to be sure. Will it now, counsel? Huh? Oh, no. I think it's fair to say this does all sound like a rather far-fetched excuse by a desperate man. The blood on the skylight didn't exist, you say. But, if you'll cast your minds back, is it not true that the omnibus there has been in the courtroom the entire time? How could anyone have possibly put a smear of blood in it without the world and his wife seeing? Yeah, isn't that right now, counsel? The omnibus has been in full view the entire time, except it hasn't. My learned friend. Here's to hearing your opinion on this matter, in your own words. As you wish. Yes. It could have been possible. As a defense lawyer, it's my job to advocate for the defendant as best I can. But still, I feel as though there's something even more important at stake here. There is no evidence to suggest that the defendant did as my learned friend suggests. However, in terms of having the opportunity to carry out the alleged tampering, there is one possibility. Oh, good gracious, explain yourself. Have you all forgotten? Yes, there is. It seems my learned Nipponese friend has no intention of running from this deceit. Deceit? I'm sure everyone still remembers clearly the recess that we were forced to take as a result of the smoke grenade fired by the witness currently in the stand, Miss Gina Lestrade. What's going on? Be careful, cover your face. Bailiff! A recess, bailiff. Yes, we all remember. The courtroom was filled with smoke, and everyone was thrown into confusion. All of us were made to leave this chamber. In that brief interval, under the veil of smoke and in all the chaos, it could have been possible to steal inside the omnibus.
Are you wise? What are you trying to pull, ye rotten feckless gouger?
Feckless gouger?
You're supposed to be defending me. 'Tis a wicked plot to undermine me, so it is.
Objection!
Whatever you think this is, it changes nothing. The facts are the same. After this courtroom was evacuated earlier as a result of the smoke grenade, a number of inconsistencies materialized in relation to the omnibus. Inconsistencies? To start with, the storage compartment underneath the rear passenger seat. When the police investigated the omnibus, this compartment was full of the driver's items. Secondly, we have the smear of blood on the edge of the skylight. As I have said, that was not present at the start of the trial this morning. Unfortunately, Lord Van Zykes, no one is able to corroborate your claims. That's true. When the omnibus was first wheeled out, both the storage compartment and skylight were shut. Accordingly, I'm afraid to say we cannot establish with any certainty if this evidence is the result of tampering or not. Indeed, my lord, no doubt there was not a single person who saw fit to verify such things. What do you think? Sorry? About the omnibus. Is there anything else unusual about the omnibus? What do you mean? I mean, it's obviously been tampered with, there's no denying it. My lord, yes, counsel. There is one further inconsistency. A mark that surely could not have been present at the start of the trial. Oh, the blood on the floor, okay.
If you dare to betray me, you little maggot.
Objection!
Silence, McGilded. The court awaits the defense's clarification. Grr. This trial keeps swinging one way and then the other. I have no idea what's truth and what's deception. What am I supposed to believe here?
I shall ask you to elaborate, counsel. What exactly is this alleged mark?
It's this blood on the floor.
Got it!
If we consider that the victim fell through the skylight onto the floor of the cabin, and you would certainly expect to find signs of blood where he landed, but as far as I recall, this bloodstain on the cabin floor was not there when the omnibus was first brought into the courtroom.
Good lord! Yes, I do believe you're correct, counsel.
Well said. Although, as advocate for the defense, one might say that was a very careless slip of the tongue. I believe that bloodstain on the floor is a decisive piece of evidence. But if the question is whether that evidence is genuine, or whether it was unlawfully fabricated by someone, I feel compelled to admit that there's at least a possibility that the evidence is fake.
Ah! This trial is over.
Mr. McGilded?
I've done everything I possibly can to cooperate with the court, but 'tis all over now.
But you're the defendant.
'Tis over, I tell ye.
Jesus Christ.
Memory, recollection, what people think they saw, 'tis all a nonsense. Facts are what counts, and the fact is that bloodstain is there now.
Well,
and over the course of this desperate trial, long and extremely drawn out as it has been, that good-for-nothing Reaper at the Bailey has failed to present any decisive evidence at all. I'm scandalized, so I am. I thought better of Lord Van Zykes. Well, my lord?
I must concur with the defendant. The unaffirmed recollection of an individual cannot stand as evidence. At this moment in time, the particular bloodstain in question is very much in existence, and the absence of any credible method by which to prove its alleged previous non-existence. I regret to say that it would be improper for this trial to continue. Your lordship can't be serious. Lord Van Zykes, what is your position? The prosecution, my lord, has no further witnesses or evidence to present.
Very well. In that case, as I believe we have explored every possible avenue in this matter, I shall proceed to my adjudication. As a formality, of course, I am obliged to confirm with the defense first.
What formality? As things stand at the moment, it would seem that Mr. McGilded will not be found guilty. Yes, which would mean we've won. Is that really the right outcome here? Is it really alright for the trial to come to an end now, with all these unexplained inconsistencies?
Counsel for the defense, your closing statement, please.
Yes, my lord. The defense believes... I need to show evidence if I'm going to make this assertion. But what am I going to use? The murder weapon. How could they have gotten it if this is his? How could the people on the roof have possibly gotten a hold of it? I am here in this courtroom today to advocate for the defense of my client, Mr. McGilded. However, at this moment in time, I cannot, in all good conscience, attest fully to the defendant's innocence. What are you saying, man? Without any question, there is no conclusive evidence to prove that the defendant is guilty. However, there is also no conclusive evidence to prove that he is innocent. Good gracious me! Order, order! This is unprecedented behavior, counsel. A defense lawyer calling the accused innocent into question? Are you out of sound mind? Oh, it was a grand decision to appoint you as my lawyer, so it was a grand decision. What? I must say, I didn't expect quite such an exciting spectacle at the end there, but still, here, have this for your troubles. Ah, your job here is done, fella, and some fine work you've done, so ye have. What do you mean? 'Tis just as the right honourable gentleman so succinctly put it before. The trial can't go on anymore. And your closing statement there was, how do you put it now, nothing more than a formality. Wah! Ah, 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 ah.
I really don't know what to make of all this.
Was the evidence we've seen genuine, or was it fake? His lordship would be fuming. Any unsightly rubbish should be disposed of promptly.
The stinking rich are always guilty of something. Yeah, mark my words.
I feel terribly ashamed that I ever doubted that lovely man who gave us the park. Now the proceedings have unfolded in this way, I am compelled to declare a premature end to this trial. Furthermore, the court must accept the defendant's plea. Thank you kindly, my lord. I hereby pronounce the verdict of this court. But we still haven't determined if the bloodstain in the omnibus is genuine. We don't know if these witnesses are telling the truth or a pack of lies. We have no idea about the truth. Lord Van Zykes.
My lord.
The case made by the prosecution was flawed, plain and simple. If indeed the omnibus presented as evidence was tampered with, the prosecution is at fault for allowing such a disgraceful perversion of justice to take place.
My sincerest apologies, my lord.
But, wait. When we were evacuated from the courtroom, Lord Van Zykes ordered the evidence to be secured. I'm afraid the prosecution cannot shun responsibility in this matter. That's so unfair. The culpability of the defendant has not, at the present, been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to proffer judgment.
What?
Well, Lord Van Zykes, it's been a pleasure, so it has. And as for you, my dear fella, I couldn't have asked for a better defense.
Do you mean to tell me this has all been a grand waste of time?
'Tis the law of the land, my good man. If you'd like to pursue this matter further, ye can always go ahead and try to change the law.
Magnus McGilded.
Good grief, you've more to say to me, have you?
Just one thing. A warning. This is far from over.
Well, something to looking forward to then. Ah! Ha! 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 I hereby pronounce the defendant, Mr. Magnus McGilded, not guilty. I can't believe it. This is an outrage. What are you talking about? He's been cleared. He's innocent. He's guilty as fuck. With the courtroom in pandemonium for the second time that day, the judge delivered his verdict, and my first ever trial in Great Britain came to an abrupt end, with the defendant being found not guilty, ostensibly a victory for us. That certainly was a long trial. Yes it was. Your first ever trial on foreign soil and your first victory. It was a wonderful performance. My heartfelt congratulations. And to you, Mr. Sato, thank you for your assistance. I suppose we should be happy. The trouble is, we're still completely in the dark about what actually happened. Well, we didn't have enough time. But isn't it wrong? I mean, who was actually responsible for Mr. Mason's death? We don't even know that. The sole aim of the defense is to obtain a verdict that exonerates the defendant. You carried out your duty to perfection.
Aye, that you did.
Mr. McGill did. And that girl is with him too.
Well, it seems the stories are true.
Oh, what stories?
About the 6 enormous fireworks they do be letting off whenever there's a verdict of not guilty. I'm sure you must have seen them now. Spectacular, wouldn't you say?
Oh, that actually happened? Yes, definitely.
I'd heard it was a sight to behold, and to be sure it was. And I've to thank you, I suppose, for having an opportunity to see it. Wah!
I don't know about that. I'm not really sure I did anything.
What on earth are you saying, fella? How did I walk out of there a free man, then?
I don't think it was so much thanks to me as down to your planning.
You're a straight-talking fella, aren't you? I must say, you had me astray in the head there once or twice. But you're young and headstrong.
Congratulations, Mr. McGilded, on having your name cleared, but nothing's resolved.
There's only one thing that matters to me.
Oh.
Aye. They've all seen that I didn't do that odious and abstinent deed. 'Tis grand, is it not?
I suppose it is.
Now the fine fellas at Scotland Yard can take matters into their hands and sort out any wee details. They'll see it for what it is. They'll get to the truth. I've absolute faith in them, so I have. After all, I do be providing a good number of their wages with all the taxes I pay. Wah!
It's not that funny.
So then, as we agreed aforehand, 1,000 guineas for your troubles, fella.
Oh, no, I couldn't possibly accept that much.
I'd be wist you're a humble people, are ye, from the east? Well, if you insist. But have this. Still in all, you deserve a reward.
Mr. Magnus McGilded. Everything is ready, sir, if you'd like to follow me into the courtroom.
To the courtroom? What's this, officer? 'Tis sooner than I was led to believe.
I hope it's not inconvenient, sir. There were some changes to the schedule.
Well, I must be making tracks now. 'Tis time for the inspection.
Sorry, what inspection?
They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself.
They're going to examine it again? Now?
Naturally, I'm under no obligation to take part in any more of this matter now. But as an upstanding member of London society, I do be doing my best to help where I can. 'Tis a gentleman's duty, so it is. So then, fare thee well. 'Twas an absolute pleasure meeting yous. I hope you have a whale of a time while you're studying here in Great Britain.
And there he goes, a free man. Oh, I forgot she was here too. Here it comes.
Don't move.
Whereas I want to say, get a move on. She really does take forever to load that thing. Miss Lestrade, would you mind putting that down?
You a grown-up.
Sorry.
And I hate all grown-ups.
Ah, there you are. What the fuck is this? Who is this gremlin?
Naughty, naughty, running off like that.
Is this some kind of picnic? Who's this little girl now? And taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Ha. Oh my god. Oh, that's the same design on Sherlock stuff. Do you want to play? You won't beat me. Excuse me, but who the fuck are you? Oh, good day to you. I'm, well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine. The inventor? Well, normal smoke grenades are so dull, wouldn't you agree? White, white, and more white. If you have to be shrouded in smoke, it could at least be a pretty color, I thought to myself. Do we have to be shrouded in smoke, though, at all? Hold on. So but the smoke from earlier was white. I just took my eyes off it for a moment while I was changing into a different omnibus, and she pinched it. Luckily, I fitted it with a telegraphic beacon. A what's it what? I have no idea what this girl is talking about. Anyway, you're coming with me now. Back to my laboratory. What for? To apologize, of course, silly, to my technician. What? You mean, say sorry? You must say sorry when you've done something wrong. Surely an adult has told you that before. An adult? I don't listen to no adults. Come along then, follow me. Fine, have it your way. Oh, good, you see? I knew you'd want to do the right thing in the end. I'm fairly sure that's what she wants, is not to get shot by that massive gun. We'll be leaving now then. Bye-bye. I'm so sorry for all the fuss. She was a lively one. Well, do you think we ought to be on our way now then? Yes, you're right, but where to? Oh, we haven't had time to find a place to stay. No sooner had we arrived in London than we had to rush here. All our traveling cases are still with the bailiff. I was originally planning to spend today in search of lodgings, but at this late hour in the day, I'm afraid we may be out of luck. Don't worry though, I have a plan. If worse comes to worse, I've heard of a lovely park where we could spend the night. Please tell me, you're not thinking of McGilded Park. I know it may be a little chilly this time of year, but our youthfulness will see us through. I'm not so sure about that. I think a midwinter London night might freeze a young person solid just as easily as an elderly one. Oh dear, that doesn't sound agreeable. Now I'm starting to regret turning Mr. McGill down. That 1,000 guineas would have paid for a lovely warm room, or mansion. And so, the trial to determine my worthiness for the study tour was over by the end of our first day in London. However, as soon as we were certain to learn, there were more trying times ahead, just as the Reaper of the Bailey had warned. The case was far from over. Thank goodness, to be honest.
What's going on?
Get the fire brigade! Water!
Oh my fucking god.
What? How did this happen?
I don't know, sir. By the time I got here, it was already engulfed.
No one was supposed to be allowed in here before we started investigating.
Oh my god.
No. Oh, good God. There's someone in there.
This can't be.
That is a lot different than I imagined. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. So was McGilded in there? Are we going to be defending the prosecution next? Yes, I would like to save my current progress. Thank you very much for asking. Right there.